Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for X-Men 97, Episode 10. This is the finale. Tolerance is Extinction, Part 3. This is the season finale for Season 1. And let me tell you, before I get into any spoilers, what a fantastic season. It's been amazing. It's been uncanny. It's been astonishing. Just any adjective you can throw in front of X-Men, this this season covered it. From everywhere, everything from the story, character designs, the animations, the emotions, the cool little cameos and Easter eggs. We'll get into all that for episode 10. But I highly, highly recommend it. I think Disney and Marvel Animation here really knocked it out of the park. So I'm going to get into spoilers for episode 10 and really the whole season. So if you haven't watched this episode, make sure to come back, check it out. Let's get into it. We begin with a flashback to a young Charles and Magneto, where they kind of reveal to each other they are mutants, right? The show really establishes very well, or reestablishes, this relationship from Charles and Eric that goes so far back, before even mutants were a thing that was kind of a commonplace. There were mutants that were hiding out. Obviously, this is a metaphor for a lot of things, a lot of different types of people that have been repressed and have had to find each other throughout different ways. Interestingly enough, in the opening of this episode, they change the opening every once in a while, and we see a young Charles and a young Magneto fighting off like people that are kind of attacking them. So probably because they discovered they're mutants, they were being attacked and prosecuted. So Magneto and Charles then go into his mindscape. So we see that this memory that Charles was digging up was actually a way to kind of get in his head. Charles is still trying to convince Magneto to reverse what he did to the Earth in order to turn off the Sentinels. But also, this would mean the destruction of Earth and pretty much everyone dying. Um, even Charles even goes so far as to say that Magneto should look out for his loved ones, and this is shown in the image of a boat with Rogue. But not only Rogue, we also see some outlines. We see the outline of Polaris. We also see the outline of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Those are all Magneto's kids, or they should be, depending on what kind of comic you're reading. So very, very interesting. Finally, Xavier sees that he's not going to be able to get through to Magneto. Magneto realizes that this is going to have a big consequence, but Xavier, regardless, uses his own power to turn back the damage that Magneto had done in the previous episode. Really cool, very well animated. I think they have this really cool point of view where you see very much an homage to the comics, right? When this happens, obviously this is putting and planting seeds for Onslaught. That's a whole other thing. Maybe we'll do a separate video on Onslaught. Now, as that happens, I'm gonna just go through some of the cameos that we see here. We have, as you know, the effect of what Charles is doing is shown all throughout different parts of the world. So we see the Silver Samurai once again. We've seen him multiple times. Maybe that means that next season Japan will be important. Also, Silver Samurai is his armor is made out of adamantium, and as you know, we have Wolverine, who is now adamantium less. We also see Iron Man. We see Captain America with the in the bunker with the president of the United States. We have Daredevil getting his ass kicked. We see Doctor Strange performing surgery with magic. We also check over with Black Panther in the Dora Milaje. Now, this Black Panther is later on to be revealed. King T'Chaka, so not T'Challa, who should be the established Black Panther in this universe from the old cartoons. But we'll see what they've decided to make that change for now. We also see Cloak and Dagger. We shoot over to Russia where we see the Crimson Dynamo, Omega Red, and Dark Star, who are members of the Winter Guard. We also see Psylocke, the real version of Psylocke, not the morph earlier on in the season transformed into Psylocke, but this is we see Psylocke and also Alpha Flight, Puck, North Star, Aurora, and then also we have some more cameos for later on, so I'll talk about that in a second. We catch up with Bastion and the fight that's going on. Bastion, of course, turns the Sentinels back on and then turns them on everyone else. His mission really is to enslave both mutants and humanity and get rid of whoever he doesn't seem fit to keep on being in the world. Bastion threatens to kill Cable. This is where he rips off Cable's arm. No, I guess this is before that. Sorry, the Phoenix arrives. Jean, who had been taken out in the last episode, arises from the water, very similar to what we saw in X-Men 2, X-Men United, but a lot cooler. Uh, so yeah, the Phoenix arrives. She's able to put in the device that Rogue, that Forge and Beast created, so that he would cut off access from to the telepathic or the technopath powers that Bastion controls. So he's not able to really influence any more of the Sentinels after that's put on him, but he's still a powerful being himself. He rips off Cable's arm, and Cable's arm is made out of these nanotechnology. It's because it's part of the techno-organic virus, so it's really technology. So he takes that arm and imbues himself with it, and so he transform. Of course, any good villain has to undergo a transformation so that you understand that he's got a little power up. I think that's very well done. Meanwhile, we catch up with Xavier and Magneto still trapped in the mindscape, and everything's kind of crumbling. If you've seen, if you've seen Bleach, very reminiscent of when Ichigo is inside of his own heart and his own mind, and the world begins to crumble around him. I just got a lot of those vibes. If you don't watch Bleach, this probably means nothing to you, but trust me, it's very well done. We see that Bastion goes to Asteroid M after taking down the mutants that were still on his island, because his plan now is just to bring down the asteroid on Earth and destroy it this way. Um, Rogue literally claps back at Bastion and she just starts kicking his ass. It's a very cool fight. They end up in the blue area of the moon where the Inhumans should be residing, but obviously there's nobody there at the time. So it's really, really interesting. The rest of the team arrives. The team that's in the asteroid, at least, they tried to talk to Bastion about it, but the humans unleashed the Magneto protocols, which means that missiles are now headed towards the asteroid. So the asteroid's coming crashing down, regardless of what happens. Uh, at this point, we see once again the mindscape. Magneto awakens and restores the asteroid to where it should be, but it's gonna blow up anyways. So while the asteroid is careening down to Earth, we do get a few more cameos, including Peter Parker, who we had already seen in a previous episode as Spider-Man. We also see MJ. Now, if you remember from the original cartoon, Peter had lost his MJ. And at the end of the series, his mission was to go into the web, into other dimensions, to look for Mary Jane. And then also, really funny enough, we see Flash Thompson in the background. You see him wearing his Letterman jacket. So that's really, really cool. So hopefully the success of the series leads to maybe the revival of some of those other 90s series. I was a big fan of Spider-Man and X-Men, but there's a few other ones that have a lot of potential. After that, we get to see that the X-Men are now presumed dead, right? Everybody that was in the asteroid is now presumed dead. And this is kind of where we see uh, the world moving on without from this tragedy. We catch up 6 months later. We see Bishop walking in to see Forge. Forge has put together this really cool chart. Well, not really cool. It's really cool because it's an homage to Days of Future Past, where he has the different status of a lot of the mutants, including everybody that's presumed to be dead. Interestingly enough, though, we have Wanda, who is marked as of world. We also have Pietro Quicksilver as presumed as of world as well. So, what are the implications of them being off world? Will they become a more central part of the story in the next couple of seasons? So that'll be interesting. Now, to kind of cap off the episode, we actually see that the mutants were not really dead after the asteroid. They were actually scattered through time. So we see that Rogue and Nightcrawler end up in ancient Egypt with Magneto, Xavier, and Beast, where they meet a young mutant by the name of En Sabanur. Now, if you know your comics, that is the name that Apocalypse has. We also have um, a little bit of another scene where we see Scott and Jean in the future, and they meet Mother Ascani, who is a version of Rachel Summers, who is, I guess, an alternate version of their daughter. And as well, we see a young Nate Gray. Now, is this Cable, or it could be Strife? Strife is a clone of Cable from the future. X-Men lore is very complicated. Don't you worry about it. And then, lastly, we see an after credit scene where we see in the current timeline a mutant in Genosha who is revealed to be Apocalypse in the current timeline, and he picks up one of Gambit's playing card. Um, so what does that mean? The only way Gambit has been a Horseman of Apocalypse in the past in the comics, so I would not put it past them to have them bring Gambit back in this form. Some lingering questions that I had from the episode: what the heck are Wanda and Pietro doing off world? What does that mean? We see a lot of other mutants as well in the little panel board that Forge has, including Shadowcat, who is one of my favorite X-Men as well. We see Colossus, so we see other mutants that are still around, but they're not marked as deceased, or they're not marked as off-world, right? They are available, so maybe we'll catch up with them. What are the implications of the mutants being scattered through time? Is this all Apocalypse is doing? Because obviously Apocalypse is a nearly immortal being. He can really be in any timeline, right? Also, who is this young Cable, or this young Nate Gray, and how does Mother Ascani and her people play into this? A lot of really cool stuff. I don't know what comics they're going to be pulling from in the next season, but they definitely have a lot, right? X-Men's been going on for a long, long time, and we've seen that these writers are not afraid to kind of pick and choose storylines from everywhere. So, very excited for that. Um, if you have seen this episode and this season, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. I know this was a little bit of a long one, but there was a lot to discuss. So stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.